right, so here we are back again for a little discussion on Dune. And there was the movie, the new movie came out pretty recently. So it was a while that I actually wanted to have a discussion on the books mainly, on all of them. That it's like a 6-book saga, and they are extremely interesting in my opinion. And so thought it was worth it to talk about it. And with me I have Sean McCann once again. So hi Sean, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Francesco. I'm honored to be on again, and I'm pleased to be. I love your podcasts, and I'm glad to be a part of this one. Thank you.
Well, I guess there's a lot of things to say. First of all, about the book and the story in general, and we have to keep in mind that I found that there are various layers to the story. So it's like there's a lot of things in there to talk about. And Frank Herbert was definitely knowledgeable on quite a lot of things, and he got kind of the idea about how things were working. He was aware of many things, even many things that go on behind the scenes in this world, and he put them into its fictional universe. Even regarding him, there's also something else to say. I guess one of the themes, it's that actually even other people have found, it's the environmental theme. Sort of he gave Dune this environmental slant, sort of. And
right.
I don't know if he was aware of what he was doing, or if he really believed it, but there are some you can see that it was written in 1965, and that was the sort of the beginning of all this environmentalist issue,
right,
supposedly. And you can see that in the book also. Like, for example, there's the the whole theme about the spice and the
right, yes,
and the scarcity. He focuses much about the scarcity theme, being on a desert planet. And he told, I've seen he had pretty much his success was like, he got his success in the 70s, especially when all the myths, the environmental myths, like peak oil and
right,
and
fossil fuel.
Yes.
Yeah, the lie of fossil fuel.
Exactly.
And the lie that it is scarce.
Yes.
I mean, we know that from our, everybody should know from their research that the term fossil fuel was created by Rockefeller in order to inculcate the idea that it is scarce, because there's only so many dinosaurs in the ground. So once those run out, it's gone, right? But he was trying to boost the value of his holdings. And even today, people still use that term fossil fuel, and it's a misnomer completely. But the idea of scarcity is a big element for evil. People that work on, or that function their mentality on scarcity and lack, need to dominate others to take what they have. It's like it's the excuse, to give people the reason for domination and control. Where in reality, this universe has abundance, but the idea of scarcity inculcates it gives the avenue for evil to grow.
Yeah, yeah. Also, one other thing. It was and you can find this in the book. There are some. I talk about those also, but there are quite a few, as I said, quite a few poison darts. Not only the ones that are used by the ones that are used by the characters in the
Right.
in the book, but also what he inserts in the book. That it's sort of the poison dart, and one is overpopulation, because one is the other myth. It's the overpopulation myth. So he.
Yeah, it's. I mean, is it that? I mean, it's tough to tell if he believes it or if he's just using it for a vehicle to make a story. It's kind of ambiguous.
Yeah. Again, remember the historical context in which he was. Right. When he wrote the book and immediately afterward.
Right.
So there was a
OPEC,
big.
The oil scarcity when in the 70s, when everybody was waiting at the gas station in long lines and they were only allowed to get so many gallons a week or whatever, because OPEC changed the price, and it was like it was the I forget what OPEC stands for, but it's the Middle Eastern countries binding together,
the oil producers. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Oil producers, something.
And also regarding overpopulation, there was I think it's in those years that they came out with the Soil and Green and all the other all the other movies with the the overpopulated planet, and there's not enough resources again for for everybody because we are too many. And and here in the appendix, where he talks about the ecology of Dune, and supposedly he talks about the fictional character of Kynes' father, who's Kynes is the imperial ecologist on the planet, even though he's a kind of he's a Fremen pretty much. He went native, as they say.
Yes.
But this is from his father, and who was there before him, and he goes. Like in the beginning of the chapter, it's appendix number 1. It's like, beyond the critical point within a finite space, freedom diminishes as numbers increase. So it's interesting.
Right. So that right there in that one sentence is overpopulation.
Yeah,
is the big problem, right? And what they've done to solve it is they've populated other worlds. They're no longer on Earth. The year is like 10190 something, or
even more, because I don't know, that's not the count from from like
Jesus,
from Christ. It's the count I think from the before and after the Spacing Guild. The Spacing Guild was formed, and that's another I guess that's yet another interesting thing, because like so I'd say, basically one of the, the universe in which Dune takes place, it's pretty much, the type of society, like they went kind of backwards. They went back to pretty much open feudalism.
Right.
With the emperor on top and all the other, fiefs, and noble houses dominating,
like the knights of the old days. And in a sense, like, really, that's where they're pushing now. I mean, in our world right now, they want more feudalism because that's their perfect system. Hierarchical system of power and control. That's what they want. Democracy is a farce. They use democracy to fool us, but really it's a hierarchical system, like that of feudalism of old. And it will be feudalism again if we don't stop it. If we don't claim our rights and say no, then the people in power now are going to push for feudalism, and the imaginary powers of the future are going to be pushing for feudalism too.
exactly.
Like this, yeah.
Yeah, and but this is like kind of the more overt powers that are in place. The emperor and the noble houses.
Right.
However, there are other forces, mainly the Spacing Guild, that they have the monopoly on space travel. So
right.
very important to keep in mind. They are, yeah.
Right. So no matter what battles happen between the houses, they all have to do what the Space Guild says, because they need the Space Guild for their trade and their commerce, and to keep their system afloat. So that's the Space Guild is almost like, it seems to me like the Federal Reserve, like the type of banking, like the way that the banking houses are the one, like the countries have to go to the Rothschild and say, hey, can I please have some money so I can go do some war, and then they like, oh, well, maybe, and they kind of mitigate what's happening. They do. People all answer to the Space Guild in a sense, and there's another order too. Would you like to mention that?
Oh yes, that's the Bene Gesserit, which is sort of a Latin term, but they are this. They are pretty much the powers, the powers behind the scenes, like
right, of the mind control.
Yes, they are. They are this weird, this sisterhood,
Right.
And they pretty much create these operatives.
Right. They maintain the bloodlines.
Yes,
right?
And they are obsessed with with controlling the bloodlines and making all the the crosses between the various noble families.
Right.
And and they are pretty much control freaks.
Yes. I find it interesting. The name Bene Gesserit sounds just like Jesuit. And the Jesuits are a dark order, which is a religious dark priest class, which is behind the ear, like in the ear of everyone in power, telling them what infiltrated everything. And I find it interesting that he uses that word because it's very similar.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those, hidden occulted of, and they have a sort of a public image, sort of the front, like they are, they are of service to the houses and the emperor,
like the sorcerers of old in the in the sorcerer that would be in the court of the king, the person that wears the black robes and tells him tells him what he should do and that type of thing, like the evil shaman that the king has in his employment.
Yes.
Or in his employ.
Yeah. And they pretty much are those that sort of the scheme that they are always pretty much scheming and and doing their plotting and their that there's a couple of phrases in the book that they often use is it's like a plan within a plan within a plan, or
yes, that's like rings within rings within rings. It's like the structure of the orders of the round, the round table groups, and like the way that like the Illuminati was structured under Weishaupt. There was the bigger order, and then a small order within that, and then a smaller order within that, and smaller, and it's like building the pyramid up. The smaller the order, the more higher up it is in the system of control, and in that way that not everyone knew who was in control. They were just doing what they were told, and that's what keeps all the structure. That's what keeps the machine moving.
Yeah. So another interesting thing, it's they have the Missionaria Protectiva, which it's like a missionary. It's like the missionaries
Mhm.
that they sent, far away in the planets of the galaxies, especially to the what they call the primitive planets, to infiltrate these tribes and cultures like the Fremen, which is the
to prepare them for what's coming. Right.
Exactly. To in case that, like, in case some of their operatives gets, have to utilize them or manipulate them, they have a religious programming, a religious background that they can exploit to get their objective done.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yes. And that's what's happening now. That's what they do. I mean, that's what the priesthood does. Like they inculcate the ideas that they want us to have, so that when we grow up, we think, oh, this is religion, and this is power, and this is my place in the world, and this, I'm just a cog in the machine of evil. It's kind of, I mean, that's what's happening.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see that, and we'll see that heavily. Like, it's part of the story here. At a certain point, actually, it's one of the main things about the story. But I guess one of the interesting things is that I think they do really well in the movie. They depict that really well in the movie. It's the representation of the imperial soldier fanatics. The Sardaukar or Sardaukar. That's
I read it. I read it Sardaukar.
Sardaukar, yeah.
But I mean, I don't. But you read the words, and it's just like a jumble of letters, really.
Yeah.
That movie. I must say, I was very pleasantly surprised with that film. I mean, he did a great job. The director should have his name.
I think it's Denis Villeneuve, the Blade Runner 2049 director.
Yeah, Villeneuve.
Villeneuve.
Villeneuve. Okay, yeah, yes. That genius director, he did a fucking amazing job. The lighting and the composition, everything, it was like a comic book. It was very well done. The storyboards must have been fantastic, and he added elements that weren't really in the book that definitely fit with what is happening. And in the film, the Sardaukar, which comes from a planet Salusa Secundus.
Yes. Yeah.
And you said that you brought up the fact that is that's SS. The planet they come from is SS.
Yeah. And it fits. Yeah.
It fits perfectly.
Yeah.
Because they're occult warriors.
Yes. Yeah. And also, as I was telling you before, also because you see in the Judge Dredd in the comics, they on their visor, they have the reflection on their visor. It's like the SS symbol.
Oh, so, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the Nazis were such a heavy influence on us and our culture, especially like our generation. We had the History Channel, and every day it was Nazis, Hitler. They were really pushing that shit. And and then when I forget which election it was, maybe the Obama election or some shit, but all the lefties on my Facebook back then, my friends from high school and stuff, they were all talking about punch a Nazi, Nazis, and then like this whole like thing kind of just bubbled up, like this idea of what do you call them? Those idiots that say they're anarchists. The
Antifa.
Antifa, yeah. So like that kind of bubbled out, because of their hatred for Nazis and they're wanting to fight Nazis and shit. When they themselves are being Nazis, the way that they order themselves and the the violence that they portray. So like it's ironic that but anyway, this it obviously was heavily influenced Frank Herbert as well. And
and
that
it's
was
interesting
probably
because
intentional.
yeah,
Go ahead.
like I mean the Sarduher are pretty much they pretty much exemplify the like the elite or order followers
Yes.
and how they are trained and selected and
Yes.
like
And how they are used
yeah
as a force to do occult things. Like the emperor is using them secretly
yes
to dominate the house of Atreides.
because they had to go,
So
yeah because
go
like
ahead,
they have to
please.
go in they have to go in disguised as Harkonnen troops.
Right,
You don't see it in the movie because they have, but in the book they are disguised
right,
as Harkonnen troops,
right,
to hide the emperor's involvement.
right. So just I don't think we said it before, but the Harkonnen is one of the houses, and the Atreides is another one of the houses, and like families or whatever that under the emperor.
Yes.
And the Harkonnen is an evil family,
Yeah.
which
Openly, evidently evil. Yeah.
yes,
And debauched and everything.
right, yeah, completely disgusting. I mean, the main the leader of the house, the father or whatever, is obese and just disgusting fat, and he like rapes boys, and it's just disgusting. They they drains blood, um he's got these things that make him hover because
Yeah,
he's
the
so fat.
suspensors. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so fat he just floats around because he can't support his own weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other Atreides is the house that our hero is born into,
Yeah.
and they have honor and you know like
yeah, let's say that they are.
like what you'd think for old kings, and the
Yeah.
good king of the
Yes.
ages.
It's
Yeah,
yeah, they are
and
kind
so
of them a bit more enlightened.
yeah, and
uh,
and Atreides took a concubine that's a
Bene Gesserit.
Bene Gesserit, yeah, and she gave him a son, and that's the main character of the story, and his name is Paul, and um, so Paul is just young, learning about the nature of this universe that he lives in. So like we as readers of the book are learning along with Paul the the customs and the rituals and that type of thing. And so the Harkonnen owned, well, they were in charge of Dune, the planet. Dune, Arrakis, is the only place in the universe where the spice is mined or collected. And this spice is a hallucinogen, which the order the the travelers of space, what do you call that order of,
Yeah, the Spacing Guild.
the Space Guild, right? The Space Guild uses the spice to they take heavy amounts, and that way they can navigate the stars in light speed. If they don't have the spice, then they can't see where they're going, basically. So that's what makes the spice so valuable. But it's also a hallucinogen for everybody, and um, so this is the most valuable element in the universe because interplanetary travel is necessary for this economy. So the Harkonnens, which are brutal, they brutally dominated the planet to harvest the spice, and in so doing, they also dominated the Fremen, which are the locals on this planet, humans that somehow ended up there a long time ago. That's not explained, but everybody's human in this.
It's a migration. They were slaves on other planet, and they migrated ultimately on Arrakis. So
okay, so they made Arrakis their home, and they had to fight the forces of
everybody that came there.
Everybody, right? Everybody, exactly. So they're like the Afghanistan people, and all the invading forces are trying to take the opium, and like they have to survive in this war zone. But they also survive this desert planet, which is completely unforgiving. They've found ways to collect water from the air, and they found ways to survive with these suits, which collect all their exhausted water, and it feeds it back to them, cleans it, and they can drink their own sweat, basically.
Yes.
So that's how they're able to survive, and they're primitive in the sense that they work with nature to survive. They need the desert to keep them alive. They found ways to use nature. So that's similar to like the Native Americans and those types of like indigenous peoples that are one with nature and use its power for their own benefit. And that's the desert power that the Atreides hope to align themselves with in order to become a stronger house. So like, I'm sorry, I keep going, but I just want to get this out so people understand if people never read the book or whatever.
Okay.
So the House Harkonnen is told, there's this plot basically that the Emperor removes Harkonnen from Dune and gives Dune to Atreides. And the Atreides know it's a trick, but they're doing it anyway because they think that they could harness that power of the Fremen and use the value of this spice to become a more powerful house. And the Emperor is working with the evil Harkonnen to destroy House Atreides because the House Atreides is becoming more powerful and their armies are more skilled than other armies. And because they're rising in power, the Emperor wants to smash them down. Just like what in World War I or before World War I, Germany was rising in power, and Germany was having deals with the Middle East to have a train that runs right along the land to bring that oil right into Europe. And that would make Germany a much more powerful nation, and that threatens the hegemony of the English, which has dominated the world through sea power. But they're going to take the power of the land. They're going to use trains instead. And England was like, fuck that. And they made World War I, totally smashed Germany to bits, and then they continued with their, let's test this Mussolini idea over here and see how it works in Germany, and that they're like, it's a test bed for once they've dominated it and totally destroyed it. And then it's like they can fuck around with it and use it as like play with it like Play-Doh.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so basically the Emperor is looking to destroy
House Atreides.
Atreides
Wants to exterminate them all, basically, and
right,
they're gonna fall right into a trap on Arrakis from the Harkonnens,
right,
and it's just gonna pass as a house, as a house feud,
right. The deception is that the Emperor is giving his Sardukar warriors to Harkonnen so that Harkonnen can easily dominate and defeat.
Yeah.
But that's hidden from the other houses because the Emperor doesn't want the other knights to know that he's doing that to Atreides, because Atreides has they are a legitimate house. They command respect among the other houses.
Yeah, and they are afraid that the emperor would use his troops to do that to
them,
to themselves, to
right.
to the other, also
Exactly.
to the other noble houses that don't
Right.
go along with the
Exactly. So in order to keep power, it needs to use occult plans to, and the occult order uses the most evil house he can. Harkonnen, he knows how Harkonnen operates. He knows that they are how they Harkonnen follows orders and they get rewards. They don't, it's brutal, like,
yeah, they have no moral, qualms.
yes, yeah,
Completely
they're
immoral and degenerate.
yes,
So
amoral, and and they operate like animals, like might makes right,
yeah,
and so that's easy to understand. So the emperor can wield them like a sword instead of, the emperor doesn't worry that Harkonnen is going to make secret plans against the emperor, because the emperor is giving him power, and then he says, thank you for the power, guy. It's like he knows, the emperor knows that he can make Harkonnen follow his orders, because that's what Harkonnen does. That's all they know. It's like the demons of the other realm that I talked about in my last podcast with Jamie. It's a structure of command and control and a hierarchical system, and so that's where the emperor feels comfortable. That's, the emperor isn't going to try anything, isn't going to like give benefits to people to see if it, the emperor won't allow anything else to grow other than total domination and control. So that's why he's putting all his eggs in the Harkonnen basket. And did you allow me to share? I can
yes.
bring up. So this is the new film from this year. It was just released on I forget what it was released, like
I think
a week
October.
October. Yeah.
Sometime in October.
Yeah. Share sound too.
Yeah, but yeah.
So this is it's interesting that, I mean, that was great because we got to hear the snippet about fear is the mind killer.
Yes.
I mean, that's the main message. Like, everybody remembers that fear is the mind killer. It's the little death that brings obliteration. And then the whole book is about the fear of chaos and how the control is based on fear, but they must not fear. That's how it's interesting how, like,
yes,
fear ultimately is the controller of everything in this, in the hierarchical system.
I mean, as I said, they turn away, in my opinion, they turn away from the right thing to do for fear, of chaos.
Right. Yes. And they wish to keep the structure in order.
They don't wish to remove it. They wish to keep it. Just change the puppet on the throne, basically.
Yeah. Just vote harder in another 4 years. Yeah.
No, but it's definitely a great movie that, as you said, honors the book.
Yes, and it does. It didn't. I mean, because, like, even especially after the Lynch Dune, people are just expecting it can't be done right. They just and I think Villeneuve did a great job. I really liked his Blade Runner also. That was great.
Yes, that was a great movie. Yeah.
So I'm excited that there are new directors that are making good work, and I'm like, if everything gets really bad and it's like, and I'm, I hate life and shit, at least I can look forward to my, like, really good artists' work of the future. Like, because there's always more new good work and new artists coming up so it's a source of hope and inspiration for me in my life, just to get to see all the new work that's coming, so I'm glad that there's another director that I get to look at, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
So okay,
Anyway.
well, where did you wanna?
Yeah, where do we want to go? I
End
guess,
or
yeah, I guess we could end on that. You know, we did go through a lot of the ideas. I'll probably think of some things after, after
yeah,
we're done.
sure.
I'll be like,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
but it would be good if we could like maybe in a couple months after we read a couple of the books, maybe revisit, talk about how the power was corrupted, and maybe if we decide that there's enough to it and we want to do another show, I'd be welcome to.
Yeah.
Or I'd
I
be
don't know
happy
if.
to.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I definitely would like to talk more about the other books also, and to if you want to read it and to hear your opinion.
Yeah,
If it,
yeah.
yeah, because
I
I
would like to.
know. Yeah, because I know with the manipulation tricks and all the various types of programming, you're gonna find those in the in the other books.
Right,
So
right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it gets
And
interesting, even though the action and the adventure it's less,
right, I don't.
sometimes completely absent, but
That's
it's
okay.
interesting
That's
nonetheless.
okay. Yeah, no. I mean, I like the. I want to hear the story. I don't need to see the explosions. You know what
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
All right then. So yeah, I guess we can close this for now. Uh, thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks, Sean, for being part of the show.
Well, that's great. I was very happy to be invited, and that's great that we got to talk about it. Like the things that I didn't know, you were able to explain, and the listeners got to hear that too. So that's really good. And I just I look forward to the future ones. Like I was saying, I watch your artwork too, and I'm uh I'm happy to be part of this. So thank you. And,
Yeah,
and I
absolutely,
guess
man. Thank you, and yeah. So until next time.